Unicorn as we do week 1 of a weekly AMA series on the month leading up to the Crypto Unicorns game launch. Without further ado, let's get this AMA started. Here's the mechanics. If you would like to ask your question in voice, please press the Request to Speak button. The button looks like a raised hand. You can do it as early as now, actually. Ooh, we have one person. Once we accept your request, you'll see a green bar at the top of your Discord. Click Accept to begin speaking. We'll pick people one by one so everyone has the chance to ask something. Once you're unmuted, feel free to ask your question. We also have questions for people who couldn't make it tonight. It's on the AMA Questions channel. We will get to those too, but we will prioritize spoken questions over written ones. There were some questions left unanswered in the last AMA, so if you'd like to bring your written question to the front of the line, just press that Request to Speak button and ask away. All right. Now that we have that out of the way, let's have Adam Gus come on over. Okay, so we've sent an invite. So to accept the invite, there's going to be a green bar at the top of your Discord. Just click accept and you should be good to go. It looks like Adam's having some problems accepting. Let's have a written question, Fluffy.
Yeah, sure. This is from HiBT. It's been asked before, but the question is I want to know more about the lending system and the breeding market.
Okay. First, we're going to be launching this delegation feature. This will come after the game launch. The delegation feature is going to be very similar to Decentraland's Ice Poker delegation feature in that you'll be able to take assets that exist in your wallet and delegate them to other players. When you delegate, you will set up effectively a delegation contract. That delegation contract will allow you to, within a range, determine the payment splits between you and the other account, the scholar, the other player, whatever you want to label it. And then, in a trustless fashion, that player, that individual will be able to leverage the assets in game and effectively play. And then, of course, as they earn materials and items, sell against the RBW store, advance the land, all that good stuff. They'll be able to do all of those actions, and the payment split will be automated as a part of the delegation feature. So that's the first thing that we're building on that front. NFT
Fast, just as Aaron said. All right. Thank you so much for that question. Next, we have Jujak. All right.
Hello.
Hi, Jujak. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you. Guys, my question is when can we see some more info about the buildings, crafting, and how everything is done so that we can plan ahead for our strategies?
Honestly, I'm currently in the camp of we do plan to produce a game guide over the course of the next few weeks that will give you kind of best practices and tips. But I very much believe in the community exploring the title as it launches and, looking at recipes in the marketplace, or excuse me, in the workshop, and learning, and exploring. So anyone expecting a paint by numbers guide for what to do is probably going to be a bit disappointed. The expectation is that the community dives in, picks apart what we've done, and kind of learns. And part of that is also going to help, the people that are really going to dig in and figure things out first may have a slight advantage over players that are just waiting for information. So again, I don't plan to release some explicit guide that gives you all of the possible costs and you can chart and spreadsheet warrior out your journey. Part of that is intentional, and I just want to make that clear. But thank you for the question.
Yeah, thank you for your answer.
Okay, thank you so much, G-Jack. It's always fun when the community comes up with its own meta and creativity is rewarded. So I'm really glad that we have that. Next, we have Horn. All right. Warren, come up.
Hello.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good, thank you. So I want to understand about supply of the land. As I know, supply of unicorn is controlled under the unicorn breeding, but what about land? I understand that land can be mined in the future, but how long are we talking about, and what are you basing on, like demand, market equilibrium, or the price on the secondary?
That's a very good question. As far as prioritization, the NFT delegation and the land vending machine have the highest priority for the engineering team in terms of implementation work post the launch of the game. So the land vending machine will launch ideally within the first 30 days. That's the target. The land vending machine is the feature that allows us to go from 30,000 land plots all the way up to the final total of 1 million. I did update the white paper per a player request this week to include, the million total count of land as well as the total supply across mythic, rare, and of course all the common, land plots. And the system is very simple. You craft a keystone inside of the game. The keystone represents an NFT, like a loot box or a badge. That NFT can be held by the player. It can be traded on secondary. Anyone with a keystone, and there's a keystone that represents each type of land. So mythic, the 3 rare types, and then of course all 9 types of common, because there will be hidden class land as well. And you take that keystone to the land vending machine, a little bit of ETH, you pop it in, you get a newly minted, fresh piece of land out of that. As far as the design of the system, obviously the inputs required to craft the keystones will be modulated to try to get supply to as best match demand as possible and create this upward pressure on on price. We don't want to necessarily overinflate supply before the market is ready to take on that supply. So it's a bit of a balancing act. Free-to-play game design is all about, and we're modeling our economy with enough levers to, I think, balance the supply to meet demand as we grow. Did that answer your question?
Yes. Yeah, can I just ask a little bit more?
Sure.
So I think everyone want to know about is land staking still coming?
Landholders will get rewarded, but we're not going to do like a dark forest staking mini contract thing.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Appreciate the questions, Horn.
Thank you.
I'll double down on that last piece too. Obviously, we're building a game here. The game is about to launch, and I didn't want another on-chain mini game in the middle of it. And so the way to reward landholders is going to be get in the game, activate your land, and see what you get. And I'll leave it at that. Cool. Thank you for the question, Horn.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Horn. All right, so that's the confirmation. The mods have been hinting at it. Yes, landowners will be rewarded. Okay, we've got Joe Moon. Please come up, Joe Moon. Okay, while we're waiting, here's just a friendly reminder that we've got some pretty cool merch over at loldefi.com. There's caps, shirts, hoodies, an apron, and so much more. So head on over to loldefi.com if you want to cop some of that swag. Okay, hi, Joe Moon. You might be on mute. We're not able to hear you. Hello? It's possible that she's fixing her mic. All right, let's hand over to Wines. Wines, can you step up?
Hello.
Hi.
Just wanna ask some question from Thai community. We just want to know that do you have plan to making a plushie merchandise like a doll?
Yes. It's one of my big focuses strategically for the next quarter is to figure out a way to get merchandise, beyond what we've done. The little DeFi partnership is great. It was kind of a first step. I'm very interested in ways to allow people to get figurines and things for their unicorns made in a custom fashion at varying kind of quality. So people, that really want to go all out can do that, and people that just want something, an entire stable can do that. The one thing that I'm really trying to figure out is how we do it where the treasury accrues that value. Laguna Games, the company, we're not, I don't want to sit here and make a bunch of money on the merchandising. It's all about accruing value into the treasury. And so I want to find a platform that effectively after cost, just like we earn 2.5% of secondary trades, there will be a percentage of that. Effectively all the profit is going to go into the treasury. So I'm trying to figure that out. I want to find a vendor that both gives us the customization that we would need, right? Because eventually I want you to be able to take any of the unicorns that you own and make a t-shirt, right? Or get figurines, or to your question, plushies. All of that is on the table. I'm actively seeking partners on that front. And I want people's ability to pay either in credit card or via crypto, and then again, some mechanism by which that profit ends up in the treasury, because that's a very important thing to me, and I think a really great use case for showing how the treasury can continue to accrue value over time as people who love this IP purchase things that make them happy. So, did that answer your question? It's a good question.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much.
No worries. If anyone has connections on that front, I'm all ears. But yes, actively looking for partnerships in that arena.
Thank you so much, Wines. Oh, that's so exciting. We are actively seeking partners. Anybody in merchandising who feels that they can solve our business need, go ahead. All right, we have Joe Moon back again. Hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hello.
Yeah, hi.
The anticipation is just killing me. Maybe ask your question in AMA, sir, and I will absolutely get to it.
Okay, so sure, just ask your question in AMA if you're not able to speak, and we will get to it. All right, thank you so much for that. Okay, so right now we have Adam Gus, who is having some trouble getting up to the stage. So let's get a written question, Fluffy.
All right, we have a question here. What are steps being taken or will be taken to attract new players to the game?
I saw that question. So the reality is I'm very happy with the growth that we've had to date, which has been extremely organic. And again, we don't need 100,000 players. That would be a disaster right now because there's not enough unicorns, right? So it is very much a process that needs to occur over time. And again, I would say we've done a great job of growing our socials on Twitter in particular. And we have shown that we can continue to onboard, more and more people into the community over time. Once the game is out and unicorns are being bred, it does become a bit different. And I think at that point, it's things like we are doing a CGI marketing trailer. I saw someone ask a question as to why we hadn't done that yet. I'd actually said no to it for a while because I viewed a lot of companies in this space that had raised a ton of capital and were building these really pretty CGI trailers. And I think we're are very unlikely to actually ever ship a game. I think that's one of the real challenges in the space, and we've seen the good, bad, and the ugly around that. I think very recently with disasters like Pixelmon and stuff. And so I avoided the idea of throwing money at a CGI trailer because I wanted to, be in a position in which we could kind of show off real gameplay footage and those things. And with the release of the art build footage in the last day, I think we're making good progress to that front. But again, now that we're close, and I knew that we'd be in a position to show actual gameplay footage in addition to the CGI trailer, like I view that first big step towards something that we can really broadcast out and begin to get a lot more eyeballs and attention on. But keep in mind, we're already speaking with the largest streamers in the Axie Infinity world, right? And so again, I think we're well tapped into the key people within communities external to our game. We've had some of the largest people within the Zed Run community from the very beginning. Everybody, Dave versus Axie is here in the audience today. And so I would say we've got the right evangelists already. And I'm not at all concerned about growing this game. I think where it becomes a real key issue and challenge is at the point where we are as large, if not larger, than Axie. At that point, you've kind of gotten to to a place where the vast majority of quote unquote crypto gamers probably know about us, and it will be about expanding the audience further. And that's where I think a lot of our lessons from an experience from free to play is going to come in, right? Free to play is a brutal performance marketing heavy industry, and it's a requirement to really figure out how you're going to broadcast and onboard new players. And straight up, we have really good connections on that front. Warren is the founder of a company. Warren Woodward is the founder of a company called Uptick, which recently announced a partnership with Sky Mavis to help them with the launch of Origin. We'd actually worked with Warren to do marketing tests for the game that we were building for Warner Brothers before we pivoted. And so I would view Uptick as a key growth partner as we really start to expand. But again, it's a supply and demand problem. We have to start breeding unicorns. We have to get and fill the capacity of our existing land. We have to see new land being minted via the land vending machine. And at that point, it will begin to be a cadence of how do we consistently onboard new players into the experience as the overall supply of NFT grows. So I don't want to come off it flippant. It is a very important thing, but I do feel like we're well positioned right now with currently where we sit.
That's a really good answer. Yeah, those are thoughtful insights on pacing the growth. Okay, we have Lemonade. Lemonade, come on up. Hi, Lemonade.
Hello. All right, so I'm just going to ask a quick question. It's in regard to your land plot grid. So I know you said you were going to expand in the future. Kind of have a ballpark figure of what that looks like? Are we talking about 18 or 50 or just a few more plots? Do you have a answer for that?
Yeah, great question. So the 3x3, the 9 total land plot limitation will go away with the release of the neighborhoods feature. That feature leverages our MMO map tech that we've used across several games in the past. That includes a paging terrain system. And without getting into the technicals, what that means is, we can very seamlessly load what's on camera and dump what is off camera. So you can kind of scroll around a massive world map with very low latency and stuff. And so my co-founder at CTO, Steven, who wrote a lot of that system, has pretty high confidence in it and its ability to scale. I do think, as with everything technical, there will be upper limits. But right now, it's probably, it seems like it would be very easy to get to 50 plots a player. And of course, we'll release more detail on that front, over time. But neighborhoods were very much intended to be a pretty large scale feature if you get your guild, leveled up enough to accommodate for that. And in the past, we've done concurrency tests with our 4X MMOs where we've had 20,000 plus players concurrently on a world map. And in many ways, there was like a lot more activity in those games with all the war convoys and stuff running all over the map and things. So generally, I think we're well set up on that front. And I would expect it to not just be a few more, but be a significant increase in the number of beyond 9. Excuse me, the land NFTs beyond 9.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for the question.
All right. Thank you so much, Lemonade. So what you're saying is if people enjoy things like Genshin Impact or maybe Breath of the Wild, all those open world things, they will find some sort of happiness in the land feature that you said.
Yeah, for sure. The way I would view it is like think of like Animal Crossing MMO style, right? I know you can visit other people's farms, in Animal Crossing, right? But imagine being able to just scroll around a map that included all of your guildmates and their land plots. And that's kind of where it starts. That becomes a really phenomenal tee up to all kinds of crazy cool live events that we can operate. And again, I mean, we understand, YGG, I think, is still one of the largest guilds. We've obviously got like Guildfy and Path Down, others in, and they have a number of, land plots. And based on our, based on our system, they really ought to be able to create one master neighborhood if they want. I think it'll be likely that you break apart. I guess there's likely more of a social constraint and just what you can well, what's really valuable. I don't know exactly the size at which it makes sense, like the number of total land plots within a neighborhood. I think at a certain scale, it just gets so big that it kind of becomes irrelevant. It actually might be a lot you break apart into like smaller guilds and things. So that's something we'll kind of watch for. But given this is one of the oldest and most battle tested pieces of our tech, I think there's high confidence on the engineering front that we can support a lot of land plots in these neighborhoods across many, many players.
All right, that's amazing. Okay, so we don't have any speakers yet, so I just want to add a friendly reminder. Please make sure to sign the loyalty program. Head on over to the loyalty program channel and click on the Crypt sign link to be part of the loyalty program. So you can enjoy all of our loyalty program events like Shadow Corn and Hunter Corn events. Yeah, just make sure to sign a loyalty program. We have Ben M coming over. Hi, Ben.
Hello, how's everybody?
Doing good.
I have, I guess, a double-ended question. First one is, when the game launches, you send your unicorns out, they gather RBW, they gather Unum. Is that gated, like on a 2-week claim period, like Axie or Pegaxie, or when they come back, you can use that resource immediately?
I mean, to clarify, they don't just go out and gather Unum and RBW, right? Most of the materials returned from gathering quests are going to be, seeds and crafting items and materials. If you apply berries, send your unicorns out for longer periods of time, it is more likely that you get a little bit of Unum and RBW, but that's much more, that's a very variable reward and not something that you can just mindlessly come in and do on a daily basis. Is that clear?
In terms of gathering, sure. I just wondered if, from a gated perspective, and just being
Yes, and
transparent.
so the second part of your question, we do have this stash system. The stash system is the mechanism by which you, anything that you earn Unum and RBW wise is going to go stash. And then if you're looking to go from stash, which is really an in-game representation of what you have, out to your wallet, there is a blockchain transaction to do that. And at this point, we are not restricting that, though we absolutely might in the future.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question, man.
All right, thank you so much, Ben M. Okay. It seems we don't have speakers right now. Can you get us a question, Fluffy?
Yeah, definitely. We have 2 questions here by Kais. So when will LP staking begin? Will it be in ETH or USDC? And then a Shadowcorns related question. Will the shadow corns have utility before the next shadow act 2? And I guess I'm going to relate that to Joe Moon's question. Will the shadow corns eggs ever turn into adults?
Sorry, I'm just making sure I remember them all. So the first one, LP staking, that is coming in the next couple of weeks. There's been great discussion in the Ask the Devs channel on that front. And next Tuesday, I believe, we are going to be running an LP specific working session. Anyone interested in that with ideas can come to that. My plan is to try to present my plan for it and open up discussion, within a peer group of people that, feel they can add value there. So LP staking is coming. It will be initially USDC. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all the detail there. Next couple of weeks, there's no additional engineering work necessary to make that happen. Tink is already set up to do that. They hadn't done balancer pools yet. They submitted an audit to just double check, even though, once again, it's ERC20 LP tokens. It really shouldn't be a problem, but I appreciate that they're doing another audit to just specifically check for us. Really shows the dedication that team has to us as a project. And of course, we've tripled the amount of locked value in their system. So I think also, too, we're now their most important client, which is always helpful. Utility of shadow corns prior to Act 2. You will be able to hatch these things if you consider that to be utility. That will be the start. You can see what you got, learn a lot more about what they are, what they do, and that will be a direct tee up into Act 2 of the Dark Forest. I forgot the third question.
I think it's already been answered. The
All
third
right,
question
cool.
from Joe Moon was like, will they ever turn into adults? So yeah, they will.
Oh, yes. Yeah, like the Origin unicorns, there will not be a baby shadowcorn. There will not be baby shadowcorns. Again, shadowcorns don't get bred. They are at a fixed supply. They do have an evolutionary or, let's say, ascension-based mechanism by which they progress. And again, more details on the Shadowcorn roadmap, basically at the end of this month in preparation for the launch of the game. And I think there you can expect more detail and still, again, some room for surprises. And again, that's just kind of how I like to do it. I think that's the more fun way to do things.
Yeah. I'm personally very excited to see what the Shadow Core next turn into, and I think a lot of the audience is as well.
Yeah, they're very different from the unicorns, and I think people are going to really enjoy that. So I'm excited too.
Fun times. All right, we have Joe Moon again. Come on over, Joe.
Can you
Hey.
hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Oh, this is called as tough. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can hear me? Okay, just that the speaker doesn't work. Oh yeah, just a quick one. I think this is not that critical, but I think you're talking about the rainbow and the beard during the quest. So is the primary way to gather rainbow and unicorn milk through questing, but it's just more of a chance-based system, or is there another primary source of getting those two actually? Because it seems like the quest gathering primary is actually the materials, it seems. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, we very much want to avoid the mistake that Axie made, which was the linear increase in SLP with new DAO. So most of the mechanisms by which you get UNIM and RBW in the farm sim are going to be chance-based and highly variable. As the battle loops launch, those will become the primary sources of UNIM and RBW for doing well within the battle loop. That ensures that, again, we're not scaling the supply of UNIM and RBW economy linearly with DAO, and applies constraint. which I think is really, really important, particularly with Unim. Over time, with the release of neighborhoods and decorations nature, there will become some ways to more passively earn Unim and RBW, but they will have consequences, let's just say, and actually tee up into the Shadowcorn fiction. So it's really all I can kind of reveal on that front. But obviously, given we're kind of releasing this game as an MVP with the farm sim breeding marketplace, the focus of the farm simulation, progression of your farm, the breeding and evolution of unicorns, the production of materials. You can obviously sell those materials into the RBW store to get RBW. But again, I'm very much avoiding the idea that, you can just click a button and get a certain amount of Unim. The on-chain minigame Dark Forest, of course, was a really good way to kickstart this economy. And as you can imagine, the Unim source in the game is going to be much less. And again, that's why we're giving, that's why we're making the so easy, quote unquote, right? So I would encourage people to hoard, rank on the Unim leaderboard, and enter the game expecting it to be nearly as easy to get Unim, certainly RBW.
Does that answer your question, Joe?
Yeah, thanks a lot. There's a lot of secret nuggets for future happenings.
Thank you for the question, Joe. Appreciate it.
Just a quick one, just an additional one, just to understand. The marketplace uses Unim, is it, in terms of the currency?
No, it uses rainbow tokens.
I see. Thanks.
Yes. Yeah, so rainbow tokens are the underlying unit of exchange within the economy. I recognize that is different from other games. Again, I think we're going to try experiments that are different from what we see in the market today, because I'm not sure we've seen a sustainable long-term economy yet. And between staking and governance, the ultimate design behind the RBW tokenomics is the idea that you're heavily incentivized to maximally stake to earn the highest possible return in staking rewards, which you can then leverage in game. And if you make the right decisions in game, you can potentially take even more RBW and continue to compound your staking return over time. But the idea of earning like quote unquote interest on staked RBW and being able to leverage that in game to purchase materials out of the RBW store to further progress your productive output and efficiency to then sell materials and items back to the RBW store is, I think, really, really important. And again, I wanted to add the additional utility to RBW and making it the kind of medium of exchange for the game was really important. And then, of course, leveraging Unim in the crafting system was also, I think, a really important decision, which gave us a lot more sinks for that currency than other games in the space. So anyway, thank you for the questions, Joe. But yeah, it's really, really important stuff that you're touching on.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much, Joe. Do you have any other questions, or are we good?
I'm good.
All right, great. Okay, next up we have Martin. Come on over, Martin. Hey.
Hey, can you guys hear me all right?
Yep.
Great.
Yep.
I in a previous AMA, I heard you talk about preliminary talks with Voodoo. I was wondering if you could share any other information on that, and if not, I have a follow-up question as well, but I'll hold off for a second.
I think that Voodoo, like many traditional gaming companies, potentially in GMI, we have alternative plans for building our own hyper-casual loops as well. The reality is they certainly have a lot of distribution as a company. Again, it would be a mistake to try and get 1 million players into the game right now. And the complexity of those hyper-casual games is extremely low. And so we're already evaluating potential partners within the ecosystem fund leveraging the ecosystem fund that would help us get hyper-casual game loops out over the course of the year. So again, I don't know where that one's going to head on the Voodoo front. But again, I think there's a lot of alternatives there that we can pursue.
Okay, yeah, that makes complete sense. And then my second question, I see in the general on Discord, like the most talked about thing a lot of the time is like why Polygon, and I know you've answered that like a million times, but
Yeah.
pretty sure Axie migrated chains like twice, and I guess if you could just shed light on what that process would look like if you did go to an alternative Polygon solution or like another chain altogether, just to kind of like ease community I guess minds on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. Obviously, we've been dealing with and seeing some of the challenges with building on Polygon, particularly the RPC network shitting the bed at really terrible times for us as we've tried to do Unum airdrops. It was shitting the bed in the middle of the Copper and right before the Copper launch. And one of the most stressful points in my entire career was the hour leading up to the close of the Copper launch auction last week because the RPC network was not doing well. And I was struggling to get off the transaction multi-sig to shut down the auction. Of course, we got it done. Worked out fine. I will say that I had on the phone and being very responsive to my questions, being one of the largest games on the platform now. So that's just some context. I do recognize that Polygon has not been perfect. All that said, I stand behind the decision. One of the reasons that we chose it was the optionality and the flexibility. First off, it's EVM. So in a disaster scenario, we could migrate to another EVM chain. I do not think that, that will be the case. But, it was one of the reasons to choose Polygon and continue to bet on the EVM at large versus something like a Solana. I just don't think it makes sense to step away from the EVM and Solidity and try and get our engineers to learn Rust and step away from all the tooling that has been built over the last 4 or 5 years, in the ecosystem. As low tech as that tooling is to more established industries, it's still pretty good. And just generally, I think the ethos of the community around the EVM is a lot better, open, closed source, and things of that nature. Again, the optionality of Polygon. Polygon is Cosmos built on top of Ethereum. You can go into their doc, see which pieces of the Cosmos SDK and like the Tendermint consensus model they use. And the idea that, over time they're launching application-specific sidechain functionality, which already exists today. And then the plan around the ZK rollup side, I think is very, very interesting. So they've made a number of acquisitions to high front. And I think the choices in front of us of going specific sidechain, which would be kind of like a Ronin style choice, or waiting on the ZK EVM compatible rollups sidechains to launch, like that. The ZK route, I think, is the future of this space and is likely the direction that we would head. Migrating to those would be, fine. We would pause contracts and have a migration event effectively, and everybody would move over to that, to that side chain. It would effectively be like adding a network to MetaMask and then doing a bridge. So not necessarily a technical challenge, a little bit of a community management challenge in making sure that the migration, occurs without, people getting left behind and all that kind of stuff. And of course, the migration can take and happen over time, right? It's like if you missed it, you'd lose assets or anything. For me, the ripcord is probably like ZK Sync if we were to leave the Polygon ecosystem entirely. Gun to the head, that's the project that I'm watching most closely over the course of this year. I think probably is one of the best possible options in the ZK flavored rollup world. Did that answer your question, man?
Yeah, that was great. I just wanted you to be able to touch on how it's like not the end of the world if we do need to migrate chains. But yeah, that's great. I appreciate it, Aaron. Thanks.
Yeah, no worries at all. I mean, again, the really big advantage of Polygon is the optionality that it provides. And the fact that they're working on a whole bunch of different solutions and the ZK specific solutions, you know, Polygon sidechain does have less security than Ethereum mainnet, but obviously much faster and lower fees. And you know, over time, I think migrating to a ZK solution is better because you get the speed, the low fees, and the increased trust and security guarantees. And so likely that is the direction we'll head. First is application specific. There are some temptations there, but I think I want to bet more on open ecosystems than, you know, what is really a walled garden with sort of open gates. That is an application specific sidechain. So anyway, it's great questions. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. I appreciate it, and I totally agree with your direction there. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much, Martin. So we have a couple more who are requesting to speak, but I just want to give out a quick time check. We have 16 minutes left, so that's just a couple more questions. If you have a written question that you want to bring to the front of the line, just press request to speak so you can line up and ask away. Okay, we have Camel next. Come on up, Camel.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Hey.
Awesome. Thank you for the MA. My question is, given your previous answer about not doing claim periods immediately at the start of the game, and the permission of multi-accounting in the terms of services, what will be the team strategy to combat bots initially?
Strategic depth within the game itself is the answer, right? Like a bot making a decision around to craft and knowing the materials necessary to build, etc. It's going to be pretty tough, I would think. And you know, yes, if you want to just take a couple unicorns to go out and gather every day, fine. But again, if you're not crafting and pressing your land, you're really not getting a lot, right? And so even bots will need to progress land to increase their efficiency and their productive capacity. And that requires unim and material sinks that are going to be rather significant. And as the battle loops launch, the unim RBW output of land will go down, right? We'll get out of this initial like launch phase, right? And within the battle loop itself, the bots really don't have an advantage, as far as that is concerned.
Okay, thank you. The second question would be, will the things in the stash, like offline or not on blockchain, be transferable to other people or not?
The stash is only specific to what we consider the hard currency, which is Unim and RBW. So, if you wanted to get RBW, like if you had a bunch of soft currency, like a bunch of materials, you would have to sell them into the store, get RBW, and then that RBW would be in your stash. You would have to sync stash. And then from there, of course, you could wallet, but we are not going to allow people to share in-game materials at this time. I think that heavily favors the guilds, and I am somewhat cognizant of they already have enormous advantages in terms of just the sheer size of assets. I think we've done a pretty good job overall, and that they're nowhere near the majority of the supply. But again, if we let people share soft currency materials, that would be rather problematic. So it's not to say that we won't do that over time via some kind of like unicorn system, but it will be controlled, and we'll have to really design that feature carefully.
Okay, thank you. So just to be absolutely sure, for example, I cannot just trade player to player like 100 cloudberries or something. I have to go through the marketplace initially.
Correct. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question.
All right, thank you so much, Camel. Next up, we have a person with a blank for a name. Come on in. Person with a blank for a name.
Hello, hello. It's me,
Hi.
Noel. Uh, I'm just, I want to ask if you will be introducing scholarships like the Pegaxi style, wherein the scholars can just choose and the managers will just, park their NFTs and let other people play them, you know.
No, the NFT delegation feature, which is kind of the first version of that we're going to release, requires the guilds to manage scholars as they've traditionally done in terms of I have a number of scholars or I need to go out and recruit a number of scholars. And you'll have to basically delegate assets to their account, and at that point the scholar can begin trustlessly kind of playing the game. The payment and revenue is is split at that point. The lending marketplace is something that we're evaluating for a longer term feature, and I think makes a lot more sense after kind of the battle loop the battle loop comes up. And then at some point we might look at the feature you describe, which kind of more of like a matchmaking tool or system or marketplace for scholars, looking for guilds. I think there's a lot of the guilds are going to undergo pretty significant evolution this year as they grapple with the transition from play to earn to play and earn. I think they will survive that transition, but they're different than they currently do now. And I think Merit Circle are already kind of moving in that direction, and other groups beginning to follow suit. But they need to start to behave a lot more like games publishers, I think, than they have in the past.
All right, that's all. Thank you for the answer.
Yeah, thank you for the question.
All right, thank you so much, person with a blank for a name. Let's have Gabe. Hi, Gabe. You're on mute.
How's that?
Yeah, okay, that's better. But we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, sorry, my phone's small. I had a question about the you guys' thought process on the breeding costs. I noticed that Unum increases and Rainbow stays flat.
Yes, that is correct. Unum, being a consumable commodity currency with infinite mint and infinite burn possibilities, feel it is the right structure to increase that over time. We may do certain things over time that act as an incentive to fully breed out. I understand that has been a challenge in some of the game economies, and is something that we're kind of actively looking at. As a feature, and it could be higher potential to roll better gene stats and things. So, or roll higher quality genes, I guess I should say, which better stats. And so, it's something that we're trying to figure out. I think again with RBW, we don't just have breeding and evolution, but we have a marketplace in the game built around spending RBW to get material to help you progress and advance your gameplay. And that gives us additional utility for that token beyond competitors in the space, and is one of the reasons we chose to stick with a flat rate of RBW across, as you of course eliminate breed points from a unicorn. And then of course you have the 25. So always remember that if you're planning to go from baby to adult, you're going to effectively need 30 RBW.
Very cool. Thank you very much. Have a good day, everybody.
Thanks, Gabe. Yeah, appreciate the question, man.
Thanks so much, Gabe. Okay, let's have Blackfield. Come on up, Blackfield.
Hi guys, can you hear me?
Yep, we can.
Awesome. First of all, I wanted to say that I'm involved in quite some NFT games by now, but the team here is really amazing, especially the crew on Discord. When you have questions or when you open a ticket is amazing. I just wanted to say that up ahead. Thank you so much. And to my question, when will we know about the costs for the buildings and their improvements? Because I'm trying to calculate with the Dark Forest and with the staking how much I will need for the starting phase. So I'm really curious.
Yeah, I believe, and I think one of our designers is gut check me. I don't think you necessarily need Unim until buildings are at level 5, right? And then at that point, the Unim cost heavy to continue to progress. We will be releasing a best practices guide that comes out, effectively right around the time the game launches. But again, I'm very interested in the community building out the charts and kind of figuring out how much things are going to cost. All I can kind of continue to reinforce is people really probably don't understand. You really will need a lot of Unim. I mean, that is one of the primary issues with many of these games is their consumable commodity currency does not have enough utility within the experience to ensure it's burnt. And it's not just about putting in a feature that has people burning Unim. That on the other side of the feature has we're really purposely forcing investment in the future. And I believe that the economy must reward progression and grind, right? And as you advance your building and that. So I get that's not the answer that you want. But I'm kind of against producing like, here's the spreadsheet so you can kind of just go in and do it once the game launches. Through discovery, exploration of the game, you're going to be able to kind of figure that out collectively as a community. That might not necessarily be the right call, but again, it's for me, I think it's more important that there's that element of discovery.
All right, so sorry for keeping you on the spot, but what you're saying is that we will probably need Unim only for breeding and above level 5 buildings, something like that?
Yes, but of course, above level 5 buildings are going to be highly productive and very necessary. If you've played any kind of a 4X strategy game in the past, the first few building levels are pretty easy. And that's, of course, important. And keep in mind, as the first few buildings unlock, including the stables, now you have the ability for or the need for more unicorns, right? Because you can now put more unicorns to work on the land, which of course puts additional pressure on the Unim that is necessary for breeding those additional unicorns. And then keep in mind the total amount of 10,000 to 90,000 unicorns is rather significant. That is something that can chart out with the information that we've given them to date. You kind of know how much Unim is left in the forest. And then again, as you, yes. So that's why we don't apply a Unim sync necessarily for the first few levels of the buildings, because as you're progressing those buildings directly will need more unicorns. And so that sync is really already, if that makes sense. By level 5, we effectively apply that additional layer of needing Unim to specifically craft materials and items to upgrade those buildings. So I would expect there to be a pretty significant supply crunch, that occurs.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
No, it was a great question. Thank you. And I appreciate that the community is like willing to, discover and not pressing to have absolute detail. I personally think it takes away the fun if this just becomes completely about spreadsheets. So again, I appreciate that the community is always willing to let us hold back on some things and it's seemingly what's out there. But yeah, that's always the point, right? The players that are really active and digging in and trying to figure out everything. It's like, we're going to put a toy in the right? And I want everybody to dive in and, play around with it and figure it out and provide feedback, and then we go from there. But again, thank you very much for the question.
Thank you so much, Blackfield. As an Animal Crossing turnip spreadsheeter, I really agree. All right, so we have 2 minutes left, and we have two people asking questions. We will be cutting off the line. Do you have time for two more questions, Aaron?
I do, yeah.
All right, perfect. Let's have one above all. Come on up. One above all.
Hello.
Hey.
Okay. I've been playing a lot of play to earn games lately, and so far I never seen guilds having an in-game utility. Uh, will there be guild in-game utility? Unlike Pegax and Axie, wherein guilds are very superficial, will there be dashboards wherein a guild can assign tasks to members, or maybe tax them and add some temporary buffs to members?
That is all going to be a part of kind of the neighborhood spec. The neighborhood spec is going to allow players to band together into these neighborhoods, and there will be a lot of, I would say, like guild elements there in terms of roles and responsibilities. We are looking at systems like there's kind of a guild tax, and there's specific guild buildings that will need to be built. And that acts as, I think, a really cool tee up for a lot of our plans long term with Shadowcorns and how Shadowcorns will affect the game and show up. You know, we have been raiding the shit out of the forest for a while, and I think they're pretty pissed about that. So the tee up to neighborhoods is kind of a guilds feature. I do want to press on the point, though, that this goes beyond like these established guilds like YGG and Path Down, Guildfi, and you know, Loot Squad and all the others, right? When I say guild, I'm thinking Forex strategy game guilds, right? Where any player can band together with friends and do this, right? So we want to bolster the guilds, especially as they evolve over the course of this year and transition from play to earn to play and earn, as well as just bands of players. I want people who have become friends in our Discord to have the option to kind of band together and collaborate, right? And so I want to make it like really clear that feature, of course, will be applicable and appeal to the guilds, the established, guilds. But again, it's meant to be a very social and kind of fun groups.
Okay, thanks.
Love the Dune profile pics, sir.
Thank you. That's very insightful.
Yeah, no worries at all. Thank you for the question.
All right. Thank you so much, one above all. Next and last, we have Benkel Buck. Come on up. Hey.
Hey, I just had a quick question about the community airdrop for Rainbow tokens, which I believe is scheduled for late February and then got pushed back a little bit with the Copper launch. Is there any more information on that, both in terms of like how we should prepare for it and maybe anything you can provide on timing?
All right, it's alpha time. I'm going to let the community team tell you guys exactly the date. I believe we've completed testing, the testing on that front, because there's a slightly different mechanism by which this airdrop will occur than just stuff showing up in your wallet. And one of the reasons behind that is to make sure that RBW doesn't go fixed supply currency and token, and I hope it is very valuable over time. And we don't want any of it getting lost in wallets. I will say, though, that the snapshot has been taken. It was taken directly after the completion of Shadowcorn eggs being minted in the forest. And I guess I'll just say it. Unicorns land and the Shadowcorn eggs are be calculated towards a player's like total retention points, we'll call it. And given that players have had time to hold Shadowcorn eggs, the Shadowcorn baseline point amount will be higher than land and unicorns, but ultimately because of the way the calculation is made. Basically, NFT baseline point amount per NFT asset, and this is really critical, times the amount of days. Made it pretty clear, to kind of hold things within a certain wallet if you absolutely can. And so in the calculation of those points, people with land and unicorns that have been in the community longer are going to receive a higher, amount of points. And all of that kind of collectively goes into a large chunk, which we're kind of calling the retention bucket for people that have been a part of the community, held them. Then we're also doing the founders badges, which will be a separate NFT that gets airdropped out to people, which will include a bonus amount. And then there is a final chunk associated with your Discord rank meant to very specifically help community or target community and reward community members who've been very active in our Discord community. So that is kind of the alpha leak of the day as far as the RBW token drop is concerned. I think we heard concerns from the Unim airdrop, and very appropriately with several different mechanisms. And so anyway, I'm excited. I'm going to let the community, I'm not, or steal the community team's thunder. So I'll let them forward with the announcements in the near future on that front. And you can absolutely expect the RBW airdrop to, of course, occur prior to the launch of the game. And then right along with launching the, not launching, but giving out the details around the founder reward program, which, as described before, stake a certain amount of RBW for a year. I should say a minimum amount of RBW for a year. You get enrolled in that program, which you'll receive kind of a monthly reward. And then at the end of the year, a really big kind of bundle. And I'll leave it at that. So anyway, I'm pretty excited about all that announcements in the near future.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question. We left on some pretty heavy alpha there.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Bengal Buck. So those are the juicy details for what we're looking for in holding behavior. Take notes. All right, that wraps up our first weekly AMA. I love hanging out with a unicorn fam this way. Did you have fun this AMA, Aaron?
Just a huge shout out to the team. They're working incredibly hard to push forward and get the game launched. I'm very excited to start to share more and more gameplay snippets. Obviously, shared footage from the art branch in Unity yesterday or the day before. And again, very, very excited to continue to see the progress on that front. And of course, always a shout out to the wonderful community management team and our mods who continue to do an incredible job. And it's great to hear the community see that. So I'll leave it on a positive note. Thanks to everyone for joining.
Thank you so much, Aaron. Thank you also, and thank you to the entire community for your time. We're aware that you guys have more questions, so if they weren't answered this AMA, please look forward to our second weekly AMA at the same time next week. We'll post a recording of this AMA on our socials if you would like to give it a re-listen. Don't forget to share this with your friends and fellow Unicorn fam who couldn't make it. If you have more burning questions, feel free to reach out on our support channels, Mod Support, and Ask the Devs. This has been Sparkly Unicorn with co-host Fluffy Unicorn and Tech Stealthy Unicorn with Aaron for our AMA. Good morning and good night, Unicorn fam.
Bye all.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.